Women Up Radio, designed to facilitate women's empowerment, improve your career, develop your talents, incorporate your passions, achieve fulfillment and success.
Hello, this is Women Up Radio, supporting Empower Women. And today we're talking about corporate and social responsibility for transitioning women into leadership and challenges that ambitious women face. I'm joined in the studio by my guest, Shola Mos-Shogbamimu, a dual qualified lawyer specialising in corporate investment banking and asset management. And Shola also is the editor of Women in Leadership publication, which is a fabulous publication. So welcome to the programme, Shola.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can we start? Will you tell me about your work and also about how Women in Leadership, the publication, how that came into being?
Oh, definitely. So my background, as you rightly mentioned, is in law, but I also have a very strong passion about diversity and inclusivity. I'm very much interested in how we can use what we have to promote each other as women, and also to create a platform for those coming up behind us, because we are leading as we're going forward, and for those who are ahead of us to lend a hand to support us as we grow in our different areas. So that is how the publication started. I've always had this passion for writing, and the publication also started because I wanted to use it as a platform to focus on human interest stories around women in different industry sectors, whether they be homemakers, entrepreneurs, and hopefully to use their stories, their personal leadership journeys to inspire other personal leadership journeys.
So did you have a leader that inspired you when you first started?
A leader? Oh, I cannot say that I had one specific person. I think there are probably loads of people that have influenced me all of my life, be it from my favorite authors to my parents to, people that have supported me along the way, and people that I don't even know, but I've heard of and read about. I think that has also helped me to push forward.
So with Women in Leadership, how's that helping to drive the discourse for more women leaders? What's it doing specifically?
So what we are doing with the publication specifically is we touch upon the topics that nobody wants to talk about. We showcase and demonstrate trailblazers, our everyday superheroes, the uncelebrated, unsung heroes, so to speak.
Yep.
But we also speak to the celebrated. We also speak to those who have been able to break through and they are defying stereotypes in their own right. So what the publication does is, as I said, a platform where women and those who are supportive of women, including men, corporations, are showcased. They're sharing their lessons learned. So, for instance, we featured some top corporations like Barclays, senior individuals from Barclays, from Ernst & Young, talking about how they are supporting women into or transitioning women into senior leadership roles. And I think that one corporation learns from another, an individual learns from another. There's no need to invent the wheel. If somebody else has started the process, what you can do is improve on that process.
Yes.
So the publication is doing a lot of work, around that. And I find it very inspiring because a number of the people I've spoken to, men and women, are doing incredible things that, yes, it's not on TV and it's not in the newspapers, but they're actually making a difference. So, the saying about, if you change one person's life, you're in effect changing probably 1,000 people's lives, right?
Yes.
So this is what we're using. This is what I'm using the publication for.
Yeah. And I know I always find in any corporation where they want to change, it has to come from the leader down. So the more you've got women in leadership and the more you've got leaders that are trying to help women get into leadership, then that whole attitude filters down throughout the organization and then spreads out further and further.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key things for organizations, especially the ones that I've spoken to, is I think the breakthrough comes when they realize that diversity should form part of their commercial strategy.
Yes.
We're talking business here, and business is usually in terms of profit. And the moment stakeholders understand that having a diverse pool of talent can bring in more money, that would also empower the transition of more women, and not just women.
Yeah.
Diversity comes in all of its forms.
Yes.
So those who are older, those who are disabled, those who have a different sexuality, that there should be no prejudice against any one of us. Yeah. All we're asking for is the same opportunity so that we can push forward and, achieve our destinies.
Yes, exactly. And so I know corporate and social responsibility is something that you know a lot about. So tell us, what's the current situation regarding corporate and social responsibility, particularly for transitioning women into leadership?
I think that there's a lot being done, but of course, a lot more can be done. Mm-hmm. There has been some progress. Yeah. That the United Kingdom government itself is making, for instance, diversity inclusion, the 2020 BME initiative to ensure that there's more things like, more ethnic minority represented on boards, and also, the Davis report on, women on boards. So there's a lot going on in that arena. And I think you'll find that in a lot of the top positions or a lot of the top organizations, they even have positions such as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer or the Chief People's Officer. So corporations are taking it seriously. Yeah. But of course, they're also faced with challenges. The reality is, when it comes to anything to do with human beings, it's never straightforward. Yes. There will always be some kind of complexity around it. But the first thing that we need to have in place, which we do, are the types of regulations and the initiatives in place to drive this forward amongst, the top FTSE 100 companies, 150, 250 plus FTSE companies, that they understand that this is not a tick box exercise. It has to form part of their strategy. It has to be part of their business mind. Yeah, there is work, a lot of work pushed towards that end, and it's good to see. Yes. But clearly, with the grassroots movement and even platforms such as myself, we're still driving this message home that a whole lot more needs to be done. So, for instance, when we say, okay, fine, right now, you do have a growing percentage of women on boards. Yeah. And I believe that the aim now for the government is to have at least 33% by next year. Yeah. But the reality of the matter is, even amongst that 33%, what is the selection process for it? How much of that 33% would adequately represent all ethnicities? You see what I mean? So it's not just that we're not saying only Black women should be there, or only Asian women should be there, or only white women should be there, but there should be a concerted effort to really look at the talent pool and ensure that opportunity is given across the board. Yeah. And one of the things as well around transitioning more women into leadership roles, and also about pushing our mantra, which is more women leaders, is also about the different industries that women are underrepresented in. So we need more women in STEM, and not just so that they can be there, but their work should be recognized and celebrated, because we do have women in the sciences, technology, engineering, mathematics, but how much of what they do is as celebrated as that of as those of men? Yes, yeah. I think that is something that needs to be tackled. Yeah. One of our features in our current publication was about women in construction. Yeah. Now, there are some industries that there seems to be this perception that it is not for women. That's such nonsense. Yeah. There's so much that goes into the construction field. Construction is also infrastructure. It's also real estate. And there are different kinds of roles within that huge industry that women will be perfectly capable of dealing with, including wearing a hat and, dealing with whatever structural work that needs to be done. It's not impossible. But what we need to do is also address the perception of where women fit in and where they don't fit in. This perception is not only a societal view imposed on women, but it's also self-imposed by women.
Yes.
So it's like we need to have this, re-education
Yep.
about who we are, what we can do, and what we're capable of. So no one should say, I'm sorry, you can't go into this field. This is because it's male dominated. That's nonsense. It may have been male dominated donkey years ago and even right now, but we're about to change that story.
Yeah. One of the other guests that I interviewed recently, Steph Green, she's the founder of Dauntless Daughters, basically books starting from the age of, 3 years old or something like that, where you've got little girls who are astronauts, who are, everything to do with STEM. They're the heroes or the heroines in these stories to really make children from the youngest age up realize that it's acceptable and it's normal and that they can go into these types of industries. So it's changing the child's vision right from an early age, but also I hope from that it's also going to change the parents' vision, because it has to be all the generations. So
it has to be, because the reality, Anna, is that we end up teaching our children what we know.
Yes.
And if we don't make an attempt to broaden our understanding of things, then we are actually, passing on a bastardized version of reality, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I have 3 girls, and I make a point of telling my daughters that they can be anything they want to be.
Yeah.
So they have this idea, young children are, 1 year they want to be something, the next year it becomes something else. I went through that phase myself.
Yeah.
But I tell my daughters, I say to them, yes, you can be that. Then put a comma next to it and be everything else you want to be. There is no reason why you can't have a kind of like portfolio career and be more than one thing. Growing up, you're pretty much taught that you're one thing. You focus on one career, you earn good money, you're able to provide roof over your head, clothes in your back, things like that. But I think the modern world is showing us that is not necessarily the case, or that is not necessarily the only way to achieving fulfillment in your professional career.
Yeah.
So it's really important that as women, we define what makes us happy. We define what our career is. So as an example, I mentioned entrepreneurs, and then you have homemakers.
Yes.
My hat's off to homemakers, honestly.
Yeah.
And they do a better job of it than those of us that know that we can't do it as well as they do.
Yes.
And I think people don't realize how much goes into running a home, even if it's just full time.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it. And I think those of us that have to juggle that with working as well, it takes quite a lot out of us. So for those who have made the decision that they're going to be homemakers, they're actually making a solid investment, no different from when we go out to work 9 to 5. We're also making a solid investment.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be recognized. But the important thing is it should be your choice.
Yes.
Be you a homemaker, entrepreneur, going up the ladder within an organization, or an entrepreneur or a community leader. As long as it's your choice, then you'll be able to apply the passion, the wherewithal, everything to make it work.
I know earlier you mentioned the Davis report, and it made me think of something, because I know with that, the government's target, it was basically targets rather than quotas, which I find very interesting compared to other countries in Europe, for example, where they have quotas, and government quotas introduced that they have to have X% by whatever the year is. So what's your view on targets versus quotas?
I think my first thought is this. We really do need to try to avoid a situation whereby pushing diversity becomes a tick box exercise, because then that doesn't work for anybody, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So if you take quotas versus targets, so quotas sound more, rule-based. You must have this by this time. While targets are, you must aim to have this, right?
Yeah.
And I think what the UK is trying to do is probably giving corporations the chance, saying, look, this is the spirit of what we want to achieve, right? We're giving you this guidance. You go and define what it is. So if you want to do better than it, that's great. If you want to achieve what we've set as a target, that's equally fine, but it cannot be less than that. But I think your question is perhaps which is more likely to yield a result.
Yeah, I think, I'm not the expert in the difference between the Davis report and what they're doing in France or other countries. But for me, just my feeling is it's got to be better and easier and more productive and more positive with targets, because there's a wish to do it. Whereas with quotas, if they're forced to do something, then it's not necessarily the best person or the right person that's going to get the job. And that, from the point of view of women and women having a good reputation and women getting better opportunities, if you've got the wrong woman in the job and someone can then point the finger saying, look, she's no good, it doesn't actually help women's opportunities for the future. That's my feeling, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think alongside the same, my own thing is there is still the possibility of, with either a quota or target, of it ending up as a tick box exercise. Yeah. But I think with it being a target, though, and with the guidance that comes with it, what the government is trying to say is, look, we want you to have a well thought through agenda that fits the criteria of your company, of your organization, that engages and draws out of a diverse talent pool which strongly represents the society we live in. Yeah. So, and because they're different, this has different colors. And when I say colors, I don't mean in terms of race. I mean in terms of the different forms of diversity. Yeah. And so it means organizations really need to have very strong policies, positive policies, inclusive policies that clearly think through how they attract talent and how they maintain talent, and going further, how they help to progress that talent. Yeah. So I think it's worth seeing how the UK's target approach works. Mm-hmm. And if it needs to be rethought through in a year or so's time or a few years' time, then we petition that, we make it happen. Yep. But for now, with the way corporations are taking this seriously, and they also compare themselves to each other, because every top company wants to be known as the best place to go work in, the best place for women to work in, the best place that promotes LGBT rights. They want to be seen as really inclusive. So what you then find is that they will, within their own industry, be it financial services, construction, or any other industry, they'll start to set which they may say a benchmark, a standard by which they must follow. Yes. If it's within the financial services, Barclays might be doing so well in it that other banks, Lloyds, and any of these other banks will go, well, we can't be behind if this other bank is so far ahead of us. Yes. So they start to pull each other that way. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, I know in the professional services sector, for example, Capgemini, they've got a really good program for diversity, particularly related to women. And they do all sorts of special training and things like that, which I think is a good example to set, because not only are they helping the women within their organisation, but they're showing the way for other professional service sectors to also try and give women more opportunities, particularly in something that's very much tech orientated. So I think it's a good way, as you say, if you get a leader who's doing it, the other ones want to follow.
Absolutely. And because they get recognized for it as well. Yes. I mean, some companies still have a lot to, they have further to go, right? Yes. But I think that the reality is the temperature of society, especially given the Women's March that happened in January, is such that anything less than equal is unacceptable.
Yes.
And that corporation will then become accountable, not just to its regulator, perhaps, but to society as a whole. And people are now being more and more empowered. So the workforce is more and more empowered now to call their corporations into question.
Yes.
To question them on, well, it's not fair if she has this and I don't have the same opportunity, or if he has that and you're treating us differently. They need to, the corporations, and then spending a lot of time backtracking when what they need to be doing is onwards and forwards.
Yes.
So I think corporate and social responsibility in this day and age is a big yes that they need to pay attention to, and also because it needs to be interwoven with their commercial strategy. I mean, corporations just need to understand that a diverse talent pool equals more money.
You are listening to Anna Letitia Cook at Women Up Radio.
So what do you think is pivotal to the development of the next generation of women leaders?
Knowledge, confidence,
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. So I am very much an advocate for education, not just taught education, but self-education as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ensuring that you expose, you get the right exposure, and you deliberately go out there, ask questions, go find out what you don't know. So education, knowledge is very, very, it's absolutely pivotal.
Yeah.
Then when we think about confidence, for me, confidence is important because that is how you then apply what you learned.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just say, oh, go apply. You need that confidence to understand how what you know is transferable across different sets, different industries, different topics. How can you then apply what you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I mentioned education and confidence. So confidence to do with application. And then the mother of them all is opportunity.
Yeah. Which
you need the opportunity, exactly. You need the opportunity and platform to showcase what you know, and then apply that in the right manner.
Yeah. How do you think corporations can help with this? Because obviously their action or reaction is going to really have a fundamental effect on what is pivotal. Because yes, if we've got the confidence, etc., that's going to help us a lot, and the knowledge. But what part do you think the corporation should play in helping us gain this knowledge or helping offer this education?
I think that it's important for corporations to see it in their best interests that their work staff, their workforce, are collectively and individually empowered with knowledge, with confidence, and with the opportunity. And the way they can go about doing this is one of a few things. The first thing is training, providing free training to their workforce on different things. And this could be in relation to what they're actually working on, making it available for them to do, gain other professional qualifications within their area of expertise. Give them confidence to be able to apply the knowledge as they acquire them, not just within their 9-to-5 job, but sometimes within corporations you have things like business groups, you have projects, and invite these individuals that have in their own way shown that they've got the aptitude and the hunger to grow and learn. Invite them to participate in some of these high-level talks, high-level projects. Because what you sometimes find in corporations is that there are really juicy opportunities out there, but then they reserve them for senior members alone, without giving those who are the junior level or mid-level the opportunity to be part of that discourse or part of that engagement, even if it's just to be able to shadow. So I think corporations need to think outside that box. And I think and that is part of the training, because once that individual is able to demonstrate their ability and aptitude to learn quickly, to apply, to be, to think through things, and it means that as opportunities arise, the corporation should give that opportunity to these relevant individuals.
Yes.
I also appreciate that corporations will probably also think to themselves that, well, at the end of the day, this person could just pack up and leave. But what if the person decides to stay?
Yes.
There are people who are known to work in the same organization for 25 years. It's still better to invest in your people, because if they go out, if they leave, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they can always come back. And when they come back richer, more knowledgeable, and they grow.
So for ambitious women, particularly ambitious women that are striving to get to the top, what do you think are the main challenges that face them now?
I think I suppose again, there are two things. There would be the expectations or the perceptions that are imposed on them, and there'll probably be personal challenges that they face.
Yeah.
So an ambitious woman is not necessarily the loudest woman in the room. She could be the most quiet person that you know.
Yeah.
An ambitious woman is not necessarily, the most docile. She could equally be, upfront and assertive. So there is no particular, I think, one-size definition for who an ambitious woman is.
Yeah.
But what is interesting to me is that the challenges that ambitious women face is very similar. So if it's within the organization, or perhaps they're running a business, there are typical things. For instance, for female entrepreneurs, capital, right? What are the current legislations, for instance, that support small SMEs?
Yeah.
How the taxes they have to pay, what dividends can they rely on? All of that. These are some of the issues that we raised when Philip Hammond released the tax budget, which totally just really annoyed me, because it was clear that the government at the time, they backtracked, but they had not thought through things. So, for instance, raising the NI made no sense on self-employed people. A lot of self-employed are women, because we're trying to get flexibility in balancing a lot of things, and we also want to pursue our ambition in running our own business. So there are things like that ambitious women face, and those within organizations also face challenges. So, it could be personal in terms of what kind of perceptions are being imposed on them, or you want this too much, or being ambitious, this is not how you should behave. There's a whole unconscious bias thing, and how women are just generally treated. So how should a woman handle that? And in my view, I think it's really important that as women, we understand that our journey is ours.
Yes.
Nobody else can walk in your shoes. Nobody else can do this journey but you. Just as it takes a labor of love to give birth to a child, it's a labor of love for you to reach your ambition.
Yes. Yes.
For you to make it happen. So if there are any obstacles along the way, you take a step, one foot in front of the other, and bring about the difference you want to see, and tackle them as and when they arise.
Yes.
Don't automatically just imagine, every battle out there. Let the battle that is real come about, and then deal with it. I think it's really important that as women, we also feel empowered. Don't wait for someone to come empower you.
Yeah.
You should say to yourself, I am empowered. I can do this. So being an ambitious woman, if there's a certain level you want to reach within your organization, or perhaps a certain profit margin you want to have as for your own business, you need to go educate yourself on how you can make that happen. What are you doing about having mentors, for instance? Yeah. Who do you admire that you can emulate? Not become. You don't want to be somebody else. You want to be yourself, but you want to be the best version of yourself. Also means understanding what is out there.
Yeah. So remaining authentic at the same time.
Correct. So I think some of these, challenges, and then dealing with unconscious bias. Look, it exists not just from men, but also from women.
Yes.
Some women are not going to understand why you do what you do, and that's A-okay. They don't need to. If you have to explain your choices and decisions to somebody else, it's not worth it. Yeah. They should be able to figure it out, and it should then be a matter of discourse rather than, I don't understand why you're doing that. Why do you need to do that? Well, you don't really need to understand that. You have to ask the question and forget about it.
Yeah.
So I would say that as women, as we come across whatever challenges they may be, because some women, if you have families and you're still pushing for your ambition, something's got to give at some point.
Yes.
Right? So how do you balance that? And I'm not talking about, a work-life balance. I'm saying make a decision, make a choice. Don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
You decide. It doesn't mean that your decision has to be my career first all the time. No. It will probably be, your family first most of the time, but sometimes your career might need to come first on that particular occasion. Yeah. Maybe it's an event or something you need to go to, or a report you need to give, and it means you're missing out on something else. Yeah. I say that as women, when we make a decision, stick to it. Don't feel guilty.
Yes.
Really think through it and think which one of these choices will make me happy.
Okay, and so just before we finish up, are there any last tips that you would like to give, or anything else that you consider a really important strategy that our listeners can use to improve their options?
Absolutely. I would say, for instance, it is very important, and this is something I've used in my life and my journey so far. Have more than one plan. Have a plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yes.
For whatever it is that you're hoping to do. Always have like contingencies and work all three. One of them will pan out. Because sometimes we stay stuck because we are so tunnel visioned, thinking this is the only way to get where I want to get to. That's not true.
Yeah, you're so right. There's always another way. So
Yes.
I think that's great advice. So, okay, well, thank you